All right. Good evening. Happy Monday Eve. Not Monday Eve, but Monday evening. Everyone. Hope you had a joyful day, a wonderful day. Um, that you didn't get too cold. That you enjoyed a little bit of snow that we did see today. That's about the amount of snow I like to see. Um, at least in my area, I don't know how everybody else did, but it didn't really accumulate much. It was just nice to look at. But I do pray that you've had a blessed weekend and that you've been able to stay warm and safe, and there hadn't been any slips or falls or anything like that. Happy to be back this Monday. This being the last Monday for Black History Month. I lost my train of thought for a second. Um, so um, wanted to make sure one. Wanted to bring back my friend Deacon Alex Coleman, because the last time I had him on, I think that was week two or something like that. Um, I found out or later realized that there was some type of skip going on with the broadcast. And I thought he had said some pretty interesting things, and I wanted to go back and revisit it with him as well. So he agreed to come back on tonight. So I'm really happy to have him back. So hey, Tony, and I'm happy to see you. Mom, happy to see you on as well. Always love to see my mother online as well. Um, so without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and bring um, Deacon Alex Coleman in. How you feeling today, Deke?
I'm doing good, sir. I seem like we're having some issues with the sound intermittent
Uh-oh.
off and on. That's the static on the line too.
Oh man, yeah, because just a moment it was okay, and then now it's back to being bad again. You want to log out and then log back in, and we'll see how it is.
All right.
If you can hear me.
Again.
All right. I don't know. I'm sorry to put that's happening. Um, don't know what that's all about. I was going to say something, about an Apple phone because some of y'all know how I am about Apple versus, Android. I'm an Android person, um, but I'm sure he's probably using an Apple phone or something like that. So hopefully he'll be able to come back on, and we'll be able to hear him nice and clear. Um, so what's been going on with you? Hey, Tammy, nice to see you on as well. Good evening. Hope that you're blessed as well. What's been going on with everybody? Still waiting for people to come on. Hey, Deborah, nice to see you on as well. Um, I really didn't do a lot of prep like I normally do for tonight. Uh, and I was thinking earlier, I didn't watch the news at all today. I didn't really watch any news this entire weekend. If you look behind me, you can see that I'm back in my office, and we decided to paint the office and move stuff around. So that's why you don't see any books on the shelves right now. I'm just starting to put them back up. Hey, Kim, good to see you. Um, starting to put things back together. So excuse how the background looks right now, but we'll make it look nice and purdy for next week. By the time we get together next week as well. But tell me, what's been happening with everybody? How's everybody feeling? What's been going on in your neck of the woods, as they would say? Um, but what are we thinking about when it comes to what's going on in the world? Never really talked to anything about President Trump and the impeachment process and how that turned out. And honestly, it's been pretty nice not to have to talk about those things. It's been pretty nice that you're not hearing something almost every single day, unless you're looking for it, about what the president is doing. And I think that's probably how it should be. Hey, Tasha, nice to see you as well. But you know, I see where the world is what state it's in. We still got a long way to go. I'm wondering how we feeling about doing the vaccinations, and how many of you have gotten vaccinations. So let me know how you feel about that. Has anybody, if you want to share, have you taken the vaccine? Do you plan on taking the vaccine? What are you waiting for? I've decided I am going to get it probably within the next week or so. But I'm just wondering, how are you all feeling about the whole vaccination process and how's it going? And then, of course, what's going on out there in Texas. And I mean, what's going on out in Texas is pretty crazy. You know, it's, it's kind of scary what's going on out there. But I don't know. It's just like a lot of different things, a lot of different turmoil is happening right now in the world. And honestly, sometimes I just really wonder if that's just God trying to get our attention. So, Debbie, hey, I see you say you waiting for an appointment, so you are going to end up getting it. And Tarshawn, I'm getting it the moment it's available to me. Okay, that's good. I'm an essential worker, so I can get it a little bit earlier than anybody else. Not to try to make y'all jealous of anybody, but because I'm an essential worker, I'm able to get it a little bit sooner than later. So I might as well take advantage of it. Not that it's really it's going to change my life much right now, because even after getting it, it's still going to have to wear the mask, still have to do the social distancing, still going to have to do all those things that we have been doing. It's just an extra layer of protection. So that's how I'm looking at it, and I pray that things is going to work out well with that being said and done. All right, so I see Deacon Coleman is back. Hey, Deacon, how's it sounding?
Yeah, it sounds okay. Sound a little bit better so far.
All right, so I say don't touch your phone. You got an Apple, huh? You got an iPhone?
Yeah, iPhone, yes.
Yeah, don't touch it. I tease people all the time on my iPhones. I definitely don't. I'm not an iPhone person, but yeah, hopefully it'll keep up while we're doing some talking. So we were talking a couple weeks ago, and I probably started off with my mindset at the time was, how has the Black church had really been a part of the Black history movement or the equal rights movement? And I'm starting to hear that click again.
Yeah.
So that's where I was at. We'll see if it goes away. If not, we'll probably just have to postpone and do this some other time.
Okay.
But that was my main thought. That was the main question. How was it? How was the Black church involved? How was the Black leadership in church involved? I mean, we know the popular names like Carmichael Stokely, and we know Martin Luther King, and we know Malcolm X, we know all of that. But how did all this come into play? And what was the major things that the church had been involved with that helped shape the civil rights movement? Did you hear me?
Yeah. Well, when you look at the church today and how it evolved into what it was today, the mission statement is somewhat similar, but the church, as far as Black people is concerned, were more talking about moral issues, basically all around the moral issue of slavery and bondage and stuff. And that they were the main ones pushing this moral issue because of the white church from England. And they later came up along with them because the abolitionist movement started in the church.
Right.
The Methodist church, and it was kind of what the different as you go. It's different in the North as it was in the South. The church and its missions, as we were talking earlier, it was all around them. Methodist and the Anglican Church of England. That's how the North. That's how their churches evolved. And the white church and the Anglican church, and how they chose to worship and who they allowed to worship with them, it was different in the North. And the South, it was a whole different perspective, all based on agrarian society around agriculture and stuff like that, and the slave movement. And the slave movement, they weren't as lenient toward allowing blacks access to religion, and they had to supervise them. And the black church was where free men became independent. They would have, there's a few independent churches, but they still could not, in the North, could not ascend to top offices as in the church. And that's what the major hang up with the black church, that a free people church, and being independent as opposed being aligned with the Methodist or the Anglican church in Europe. So there were a few independent in the North where free people there, but like I said, they never were allowed to hold official offices as in the church.
Okay.
It was almost like the Church of the Latter-day Saints, and how the issue around blacks and the ascendancy into the higher echelons in the church and leaderships and things of that nature.
Okay. So, here's what I think I want to do. Because I'm definitely hearing that skip in the phone, especially when I speak. I know one of the last things you said was, and I know you have a position on this, and I'll let you speak on this, and then I'll let you go. That really, Black History Month, for many people, it's an insult. It shouldn't be just a month.
Right.
Talk to me about your position on Black History Month itself.
Well, the Black History Month, back when it was initiated and started negotiating for that, was something necessary, because we had that Jim Crow thing going on at the time, and the transition from Reconstruction into Jim Crow. And they used as a negotiation point the people that were lobbying for us to have a recognition, because we were still thought of as less than human in some cases. And no one made our issues of the black people and the black church a priority item and a priority issue. But it was a high priority in our community, because that's the only institution that we had any power in, and it can ascend to leadership in our communities, most especially, because no one was jumping in line to solve the problems of the mass migration of people from the North to the South, and the mass migration to try to be free and not having the resources to do so. And the church was the main sources of any kind of resources in the black community. It all originated in the church. And that was because it was the only thing that we had, basically.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, Zeke, I apologize again. I'm so sorry that we're having a technical issue. I thought we had it cleared up, because earlier it was sounding great, but now we're having that issue again. So I do appreciate you coming on, and I thank you, and hopefully we'll be able to get together again real soon.
Yeah, okay, that sounds great. Maybe we can find a different, if I can get on my laptop, it might work better the next time.
Okay. Well, if you want to try that, that's fine too as well. You can figure that out. If I see you pop back in, I'll click you back on.
All right, sir.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, y'all. Again, I apologize. I don't know what that's about. I know what it's about. No, I ain't going to do that, because I know some of y'all got iPhones. But there's definitely an issue over there on that end. But maybe he'll be able to pop back in on his laptop or something, because he's very well respected. He's very knowledgeable in Black history, and I was really hoping that we could pick his brain a little bit more. So let's go back and talk a little bit more about this whole COVID thing. And again, just going to kind of switch gears here. Hey, Sonya, I see you on. I didn't know that you had COVID. I'm hopeful that you are feeling much better now and that things are going well. But what I'd like for y'all to tell me, what other thoughts do you have going on right now? I mean, because when you think about it, we're coming up on a year. What was it, March 13th, when at least our world started to shut down. And it's been a year, and I know I had no idea or no thought that it would be this long. I've never lived through a pandemic. I never had to deal with a pandemic before. So, I think most of us probably thought, oh, it's just going to be a couple of months or, 3 to 4 months and everything will be okay by the time summer comes. And that was probably just wishful thinking on our side. But here it is. We'll be coming up on a year and it's still crazy. I mean, we have some hope now that we have a vaccine, but I'm wondering uh, if enough people will get it, that will it where it's going to actually be a difference maker. Because that's another issue that we have to think about and talk about. Um, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. What have been some of your struggles this past year? What has been some of your triumphs? I know at the beginning we talked a lot about, some positives and how families can get together and do things together as well. Um, sorry, I just saw another message here. Um, so me too. I'm sorry about the technical issues as well. But uh, what are some triumphs? What are some things you had to struggle with? Okay. I see March 13th. I see you, Tasha, March 13th, my first day working from home. And honestly, if anything else, and I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, to be honest, um, I think businesses have seen that teleworking works. For many of them, it works. And I'm wondering how this is going to change the landscape of how businesses look at how they look at their overhead now. Because if they can have people that will actually work from home, um, that can actually work from home, um, why pay all that overhead? When they can have a smaller space and still get the same amount of work. Okay, um, I'm just wondering how that's going to be. Uh, Personally, although I've enjoyed being able to telework most of the time, I still have a need, or I still feel that I need to go into the office once, maybe twice a week at least. And honestly, that doesn't happen every week, but it's just something about actually getting into the office and being able to work at my desk and things like that. And usually there aren't too many other people there, but it's just being able to get to the office. And I guess maybe it's just a feeling of um, familiarity, or just feeling, like I'm back into my routine a little bit, even if it is just for half a day or a whole day. It's just something about being able to do that. Um, all right. My son had COVID in May. Praise God. He is well now. I know that's right. And I'm thankful, certainly we know that there have been many who have lost loved ones um, to the virus, but thankfully many have also had it um, for a short period of time. Many have had it for just a day or two. The symptoms were mild enough where they didn't have to go to the hospital. And I wonder if that also comes into play with how some people look at it, like it's not all that serious, or it's just like having the flu. But I mean, really, it could really escalate into something a whole lot more um, than just the flu symptoms that some of us have had in the past. Um, so um, there's the phone number. I'd love to hear a couple of voices if possible. Call 410-513-9499. Again, my show for tonight has been turned upside down because of technical issues, but that's okay. We can just talk about, I brought up COVID. If there's something else that's really on your mind that you really want to talk about, um, be happy to hear from you, because again, it's not just about my conversation and me talking to you alone. And the conversation shouldn't be just one-sided. So I do want to hear some of your thoughts and your ideas. Um, I see, W. I think your grandson had it, and the only symptom were loss of taste and smell. And it's funny how the loss of taste and smell, that wasn't one of those original symptoms. And now we're hearing how um, this virus is mutating, and now we have these different strains of this virus. And I was listening. I can't remember exactly who it was I was listening to, um, but it just makes you wonder: had we really buckled down and taken this serious in the very beginning, and did our best to try to wipe this out or contain it as quickly as possible, would these new strains would have had the opportunity to grow and to become something? You know what I mean? Um, so it's just it's a crazy time right now. It really is. From what I can see, when I can tell, it's just still a crazy time. You still have COVID. You now have the winter issues um, in Texas, and people are struggling and suffering down there. And some of the pictures I've seen down there, and I haven't been looking a lot, but the few I've seen, where icicles are coming from the fan inside the house because water is just pipes are bursting and water is escaping to wherever it can. But then when it escapes, it just freezes. Um, People not having electricity for days and weeks, and uh, people standing in line looking like something from Russia in the 1970s, standing in line trying to get food and things like that. It's just amazing what's happening in the world today. And when I see these things, um, and it's not like I want to think that God is punishing us, um, but I do feel like sometimes God is trying to get our attention. And um, I don't know if we're just not paying enough attention, or if it's just a thing where this is just another cycle. I mean, uh, compared to many, still a young man. I like to think, even though I have a whole lot of gray, I like to think it's because of wisdom and not because of the stress of life that I've had to endure. But you know, I've never lived or seen anything like this, or at least I don't remember going through a time like this. Um, so just what I'm thinking off the top of my head. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? So again, 410-513-9499. I will say, just as I'm going on, and I'm not sure how long we're going to stay on tonight, at least another 10 minutes or so, unless we get into a really good topic or discussion. Um, I'm really looking forward to this coming year. In April, it'll be 1 year of doing this podcast. So I'm planning on doing some special things as well, that I'm hoping that you guys will be excited about, and that you'll stay on board with, and that you'll share with others as well, and that will hopefully help grow the audience as well as increase our conversations, and make them more appealing to a larger audience. So I am looking forward to that. Kim says, I sense the Lord saying, increase your intimacy with me. And that's all he ever wants. That's what he always calls for all of us to do. Is to be intimate with him, and not just call on him when we're in a spot, which is what a lot of us do. We wait until we get into a spot, and then we want to pray, and then we want to ask him for help and for guidance. But when you're intimate, uh, that's what Bishop says: intimacy, into me, see. He wants you to be able to see into him, just as he can see into you. Um, you have to remember that God can see you through and through, but he wants you to have that same ability to see into him. He doesn't want to keep secrets from you. He doesn't want you to feel like he's some big, huge mystery. You know, he doesn't want those things. Okay. He wants us to be as one. First of all, he wants us to live as one, to be as one, to love as one. Um, and then we could represent him together as one. one body, you know. So that's truly what he's looking for from us, and he wants us, you know, he tells us he doesn't want to have secrets. He wants to tell us everything. Um, he doesn't want to just call us servants. He wants to call us friends, you know, because he tells his friends everything. And he wants us to be able to do that. And not too many of us don't want to take him up on that, surprisingly. Um, some of us can't, I don't know. I know it's been difficult for me, especially in recent days, recent months, to uh, want to be honest and truthful with my feelings, especially towards him, you know. So it can be difficult. Intimacy with him can be difficult, but at the same time, just knowing his character and knowing who he is and looking at the history of what he's done in the past, he really does kind of make it easy for us to be intimate with him, to learn more about him. And he tells us, come learn of me and be a part of me. Okay. Um, Kim says, in wanting believers to show love like never before and letting our light shine brightly to win the lost to him during the dark times. Yep. And for me, I think this is a dark time. I think this is a dark time. Um, Surely there's been other dark times for mankind, and may have been even darker times. You think about world wars, and you think about slavery, and you think about apartheid, and you think about a lot of different things going on around the world that's been in history. But something like this, again, in my young age, I've never seen or felt anything like this before in my life. And this is probably one of the darker times I've lived through. So he really wants us believers to step up and be the light of the world. That's what he needs. That's what he expects. Okay. Any other thoughts? Again, you can call 410-513-9499. Love to hear from you. Love to talk to you. Love to see what's on your mind. What other topics are out there? I was just kind of sitting here kind of thinking about, what else is going on in this world? What else is going on in our lives? You know what I mean? What's shaping our thoughts? What are we spending time with? What are we spending time with that keeps us from that intimacy with him? I don't know. That's always the question, because certainly there's always something going on that keeps us, or we allow ourselves to be distracted from being intimate with him. So what are those things that we're looking at? Tony says, I believe, let me put it up. Says Tony, I believe that God is angry with how the world has changed, what he has put in place. The world has redefined family and marriage. Well, I do agree with that. The world has redefined family and marriage. And only God knows his own heart and whether or not he's angry. I'm careful to say that what's going on is retaliatory on his behalf, and that he's retaliating against our rebellion, if you will, because it is purely rebellion. But I mean, I don't know. God definitely did things in the past, when his chosen stepped out of line, he did things to get them corrected and get them back in line. So I don't know. Sometimes I wish that there was a prophet of old that would speak to us plainly what God is saying, and that we knew that he was a true prophet of God, like the prophets that we saw in the Bible, that we read about in the Bible. A prophet that will actually come out and say, thus saith the Lord. And we need to do this and we need to do that. Sometimes I wish that weren't in place. I really do. I would like to think I would be willing and eager to follow what thus saith the Lord. If I knew it was from a real man of God, a true prophet of God, regardless of how it may feel, regardless of how uncomfortable it may be, regardless of how crazy it may seem. I would like to think that if I knew it was a true prophet of God, that I would do it, whatever God had required of me to do. But as far as like the family issue, yeah, we've gotten away from some basic things that God set in place, and it's always become like the norm. Um, some of the things that you see, some of the things that you hear, even on TV, you see things as if it's commonplace now. And I'm not saying that people need to uh, hide who they are. I'd rather people be open and honest about who they are. But at the same time, I don't need certain agendas pushed down my throat and always put in front of me, because as if this is the reality, as if this is how the world really is. I don't know if y'all can hear that. Well, there's a cat outside screaming. I don't know what's going on with this cat. He just started going off. Sorry, I got distracted. But I don't know if I need that, because really, although I know that may be a reality for some, it's not a reality for me, at least not on a day-to-day basis, you know. So it's just a lot of different things out there, and I'm not talking about any one particular thing, but there's a lot of different things out there that's presented as if, it's okay. One of the things I've always believed, that what the enemy does to normalize things is to start off with something small and make that acceptable, and then just keep adding on to it and make that more acceptable to until really whatever it is, and we'll call it sin, whatever the sin may be. It just now is routine. I know I've shared this with a couple of my other friends. I don't think I've ever shared it here. But I was many years ago, I was out with my friends. And one of my friends had admitted to having an affair. Well, not an affair, but he had stepped out. And he was like, I'm feeling bad. I'm wondering if I should let her know. I'm trying to think. I'm not even sure if he was married, but he had seen somebody else. And one of my other friends spoke up, and he was like, "Listen, it's no need in telling her anything, and I'll tell you how to get past this." He's like, and we're all kind of like sitting in the car. It was like four of us in the car, and he's like, "I'll tell you what you do. What you want to do is you want to go back and sleep with this other woman again, or sleep with somebody else again, because the more you do it, the easier it will become." And the car just got quiet, because we're trying to process, did he actually just really say that? But really, when you think about it, that's how the enemy works. The more you do it, the easier it is to do it. The more commonplace it becomes. And I think that's how the enemy has gotten such a stronghold in so many different areas. It's because once we start doing it, it becomes commonplace. It feels like, well, this is the norm. This is okay. I haven't felt no real repercussions about it. My guilt and remorse about it is not as heavy as it was when I first did it, because now I've gotten used to it. Therefore, it must be okay. And I think I think that's how the enemy works in so many of our lives. I think that's how we get tripped up. I think initially we may feel like, oh, that's not right. I shouldn't have did that. But then you go back and you dip your toe in there again. And it's like, it still feels good. I ain't had to pay for it yet. There aren't no repercussions for it. You know, no consequences have come my way. Let's try it again. And then you go back and you do it again. You go back and do it again. And next thing you know, you someplace you had no idea that you were going to be. And then you're wondering, well, how did I get to this place? But that's how the enemy works. That's how he does it. That's how he catches us. You know, and that's just my thought. I don't know how y'all feel. I see you saying, see what you're saying there, Tony. You agree with me, okay? Um, Says the enemy tries to get you to justify your actions, and you're right. People, I realize, seems to me today that people don't like taking responsibility for their actions. It seems to me that for a lot of people, and it's been like this for quite some time. Actually, way back in the '80s, really late '80s, I'm gonna get mine. You got to get yours. It started for me hearing that kind of thought. I'm gonna get mine. You get yours. Whatever I do is on me. As long as it don't affect nobody else, I'm gonna do me. That's how it was. So that's how it is. That's how people think, but they don't realize that what you do does affect somebody else around you. You're not on this planet alone. What you do, what you say, how you act affects somebody around you. Sometimes you don't even know how much your actions affect somebody just because they're looking at you. You don't even know they're watching you. But your actions, your thoughts being a reflection, or your actions being a reflection of your thoughts, makes a difference in other people's lives. And you may not ever know it because you never know who's really watching you. You never know who's paying attention to what you're doing and what you're saying. I'll never forget. There's another time I was in a grocery store, and one of the brothers from the church, he said something to me like the following week. He's like, "Hey man, I saw you in Shoppers, and I really admired that you didn't take a look at that young lady." And honestly, I probably didn't even see the young lady, but he's like, to me, that made a big difference. You know what I mean? And honestly, I don't know. I may not have seen the young lady, whatever. But because he said that, it made me realize you're not always aware of who's around and who's like checking out your walk and checking out your life. You know, I used to travel a lot in one of my previous jobs. I used to travel a lot, and I was in Kalamazoo. I was in Kalamazoo, and it was late. It was about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Because when I would travel, if I could not sleep, I would always find a Walmart, because Walmart always is open. And it's a good way to figure out who's in that neighborhood, what kind of community you're in, because you'll see, especially late at night, what kind of people are there. And but I could go to Walmart, and also Walmart back then, I don't know if they still do it, but they used to have video games up, and you better sit there and play video games 15, 20 minutes or so just to kill some time while you were in the store and things like that. But anyway, I was in Walmart. And I was all the way in Kalamazoo, and I heard somebody say, "Hey, coach," because I used to coach little league football. I said, "Hey, coach," and I ain't paying no mind because I'm like, I'm in Kalamazoo. Don't nobody know me in Kalamazoo, but here it is. It was a young man that I used to coach with his father, um, many years prior to. And it just goes to show that you never know who's watching. You never know who's going to see you doing whatever. And I know we used to sing songs about, got to get home, and, I'm going to go down DC, and I'm going to do my dirt someplace else. But guess what? God has a way of unveiling or unveiling the dirt in your life, just to be honest. Okay. And if he wants it to come out, it's going to come out. And there's no place on this planet, there's no place on this earth you can go where your dirt can't just show up, because it will sooner or later. So all things come to the light eventually. So it just pays to do well and do better than what you see out there on TV, and how TV makes certain doing things, and songs that are being sung say, it's okay to do this, or I'm gonna do that. Just need to do what's right. Have some integrity. Do what's right because it's right, even when nobody's looking. Just have some integrity. All right. But yeah, you're right. The enemy just when somebody has to do a whole lot of justifying of why they're doing it, they're talking about, well, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and they're justifying, I'm gonna do me, and they're saying, you know what, this is my life, and I ain't hurting nobody. If they talking all that, that's the enemy saying, you can justify what you're doing, and can't nobody judge me, shouldn't nobody judge me. You're right, nobody should judge. I don't judge anybody. I do my best not to. I have my opinion about things, and my opinion hopefully will be based on what the Bible says. And I'll share my opinion, but I don't judge anybody, because who am I to judge? I'm not God. I can't judge their sin. I got my own stuff I got to worry about. I've had plenty of sin in my life. My thought life isn't always right. Nobody's thought life is right 100% of the time. So, I got my own thing to worry about. So even though I may not agree with certain things, doesn't mean that, I judge it. And I think sometimes that's one of the problems that people have with Christians. They see us as being judgmental, all right, when actually we ought to be loving, and loving them to Christ, and loving them and say, you know what, there's a better way. And here's what God really wants for you. And here's what God really expects from you. I think that's how we're supposed to do it, and not be judgmental, and be fire and brimstone, and just talk about you going to hell because you're doing this, and you're going to hell because you're doing that. You can't condemn anybody to hell. You can only encourage them to get to know God so that they can go to heaven. That's all we can ever do. Right? All right. So done a lot of talking. I've done a lot of talking. Anything else? Anybody else have any other comments? Anybody want to call in for a few minutes? Feel free to do that. 410-513-9499. We'd love to talk to you for a few more minutes, but if not, again, I apologize for about our guests for tonight. Maybe some other time we'll get them back. I will say, in this month, I've been asking and pushing everyone to find some type of cause for Black History Month, and I'm in agreement with Alex Coleman. It shouldn't be just a month thing. We should be learning and hearing about our history throughout the entire year. It should be just as much as we hear when people are going up through grade school and things like that. You hear about George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. You ought to be hearing about some of our Black history heroes. Speaking of which, Thurgood Marshall. I started off saying that I've been asking that you would support some group this month, make some donation. This time I brought up the Facebook page for the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. So you can actually go and look at that. Has some great posts out there. Talks about some other organizations that are helping and giving. And sometimes, it's just good to find out about those other organizations, because you might say, hey, you know what, because they supported this, I'm going to support them. But it's a lot of good information out here on this Facebook page as well. All right. So just keep your mind open as far as helping these other organizations that help others make our community better, and that support the future of who we are in America. But definitely, African American history is American history, and we ought not forget that. Okay. All right. So, if there's nothing else, thank you all for tuning in. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. I pray that you will enjoy the rest of the evening. I'm with you, Tasha. We should make efforts to learn our history. And you're right. We don't know enough about our own history 364 days a year. Okay. You're absolutely right. Because, one thing I've learned more this particular year, and I was going to sign off, but see, you started another conversation. 365 days. I heard you. I saw you. I didn't realize how way back when, how politically involved African Americans were. I didn't realize how many. I mean, I heard about it, but how many. I mean, had gotten to the White House in the sense, or gotten to Congress or the House, things like that. I didn't know it was so many. But of course, we don't hear that kind of history. We don't hear that kind of history, and how important we are, and how we help structure some laws in this country. It's just amazing what we don't know about ourselves. So we owe it to ourselves to learn more about it, so that we can teach our children, and they can teach their children, so that those important things that happen won't get lost, and it won't be buried under other fake news, if you will, history. Okay. All right. So thank you all again. You're right. That's what I did. Yeah. And teach our children. We are the only people that do not make an effort to do it diligently. You're absolutely right. Now I will say I'm thankful, for the family I came up in, because we did hear some things. That's the only reason why I know what little bit I feel like I do know, but there's so much more out there that I feel like I should know that I don't know. And that's one of the things that I'm endeavoring to do this year, is to learn more about African American history, especially in the political arena, especially more about in the science arena. That was something I was always interested in growing up anyway. So I encourage you to do the same thing. All right. Well, thank you again. I appreciate y'all. Know that I love you, but as always, as much as I say I love you, I definitely don't love you as much as God loves you. Nobody love you as much as God loves you, or as deep as God loves you. And he proved it by giving us his son. And his son loved us so much that he went and died on a cross for you and I, for the sins that we made and will make. But he did it just so that we could have a relationship with the Father, because he had to have a perfect sacrifice. And that's what Jesus Christ was, a perfect sacrifice. And if you want to know more about what that sacrifice was all about, again, feel free to hit me up here on Facebook. You can leave a chat. You can instant message me here on Facebook. You can go to a website. You can leave a message on the phone. And we'll have a conversation about that. That's the best conversation you can ever have in life, is to find out about what Christ did so that you could have salvation. All right. So be blessed, stay safe, stay warm. Looking forward to seeing you all next week, 7:00. Talk to you soon.